Hi guys, it's Gina here. Welcome to my channel. Let's talk about leadership and impact. Here we share the best tips and best practices on what truly makes an impact leader reach its true potential. So today is the 1st of March, and I decided to start strong as one, of course, the 1st of March being the beginning of spring. And actually in London, we welcomed it with some sunshine, which is, as you may know, quite a unique experience. So very grateful for that. You could really smell spring in the air today with so many people out and about enjoying the sun rays. That the 1st of March also means that we're welcoming Women's History Month. This is quite an important month in the race towards gender equality because it gives us that opportunity to talk about the women either currently around us who are really making an impact, or the women who have left behind a legacy, who have really been impactful in their journeys, and who have inspired other women around them, who generally have left behind this powerful legacy. So what I decided to do is hop on this channel and share a story during the month of several ladies in each episode, which have made a difference in their own way. Note these are quite different and various journeys from ladies who are very different between them in characters, who have, of course, achieved very unique things that vary quite a lot. So it's quite a big spectrum of what I'll be sharing. But I would like you to join in and play a game with me. And let's see if we can identify in these stories some common traits of leadership and leadership reaching its true impact potential. And when I say impact potential, we are looking at that potential that is really transformational and leaves something behind that inspires. So this goes beyond gender. But of course, on the occasion of this being Women's History Month, this month I will be talking about a few of those 1,000 ladies out there who have really been female leaders who have made an impact. And I would really like if you also came along on this journey and tried to identify those traits, because we will see that even though they're quite different between them, and of course operated in different fields at different times and in different capacities and roles, you will be able to identify these consistent traits or patterns that really make for impact leaders. And what I'll do at the end of this month, I'll do a recap of everything you have also kind of commented on, but also my key takeaways on what that pattern looks like. How do we identify impact leaders, and how do we also individually reach our full impact potential? So starting today, the first lady that I want to showcase is somebody who inspires me personally, at least, because she was the first female CEO of a Fortune 500 company. This was in 1972. So the fun fact here is that as we speak today in 25, I think as of last year, we're still seeing around 10% of female CEOs in Fortune 500 companies. So that means around 50 ladies or so. And this is a decade later. So clearly we have come a long way, but there's also an even longer journey for us to reach. So it's so important for us as female leaders to really inspire the next generations to come and to put our own contribution to this world and make an impact. So this first lady who made it as the first female CEO of a Fortune 500 company, which was the Washington Post, is a lady called Katherine Graham, so Katie Graham. And while the way in which she rose to this position was through quite a tragic event, unfortunately, as her husband decided to take his own life, and she was suddenly confronted with this challenge of, do I step into this role? Am I ready? Will I be able to carry through this role? There was no role models around her at the time. Very few women in press or in such leadership positions. And as it was a family business, she was confronted with this dilemma, and she did eventually step up to this role, making her one of the very few, less than a handful, of women leading a press magazine at the time, a press group, sorry. But also, as I mentioned, the first she was denoted the first female CEO of a Fortune 500 company. What was interesting about this story is that in her autobiography, which actually won a Pulitzer Prize, and it's quite fascinating to read, she actually self-described herself as a dormant wife or an obedient daughter who really saw no personal career prospects for herself. She had known a life where what her role was to support the powerful men around her, whether that be her father, of course, her husband, and to kind of work towards the upbringing of her children. So when this moment came, and at a moment of such grief, of course, and dealing with such a tragic event, she had a decision to make, and she actually stepped up to the role. She rose to the occasion. And it's quite fascinating how she describes that even though she took on the role of a CEO, it took several years, nearly 8, before she actually made bold decisions of herself, which put her into her true impact leadership position. In fact, she says that for so many years, she would actually have to ask the men around her, do you agree with this? Are you okay with this? Before taking that leap of faith in making any decisions for the Washington Post. But there was this pivotal moment that really changed everything for her several years later, as I mentioned. There was that moment where she decided she wanted to go ahead with publishing a story which was highly politically sensitive, where everybody around her was advising her that this would be the break-it moment of the Washington Post. It would lead to bankruptcy, it would lead to legal claims. But she went ahead and posted what was known as the Pentagon Papers, which revealed some of the inconsistencies in the US statements versus the realities of the Vietnam War. She went ahead and pressed the publish button, and in her autobiography, she describes it as the moment where she found her voice. She actually stepped into her true leadership potential. The moment she said, let's do it, let's go, let's publish. So that's quite an inspirational journey. And of course, even though there was a legal battle around the case, as she shone through as a winner, there were so many women who were overlooking her as she stepped out of that courtroom, who were inspired by her. The journalists at the time, other females at the time, were inspired by her journey, by her boldness. And while it took her some while to reach that point where she found her voice, where she said, let's do this, and I do not care about what anybody else believes, because these are my values. This is what I stand for. This is what I want the Washington Post to stand for. It really led to the successful journey that she had, and to really leaving behind this very powerful legacy. She says in her book that, at that moment, it's as if I reached the end of a cliff and I just shut my eyes and decided to jump off. It was such a bold decision to make. Clearly, there were a lot of thoughts going through her mind, yet she went ahead and did it. And from a lady who self-describes herself as a doormat wife and an obedient daughter along her life, stepping into this true impact leadership potential was really astonishing. What she left behind was astonishing. And she actually became this champion of the paper, but she also became a champion for freedom of press. And that really changed the world. It inspired so many women, but mainly it also changed the course of history of press. So that was quite an astonishing journey, which I find very interesting. Katie Graham is the first woman that I would like to acknowledge on this series, and this was her story, which I hope you have found equally inspirational. And I look forward to hearing your comments on the traits which you kind of see in her, which led to this transformational moment in history, which she brought about with her impact leadership, and how you feel she stepped into that real potential. And do stay tuned for the next episodes, which will drop within the next few days. I look forward to reading your comments, of course. And thank you so much for joining us today. Happy 1st of March, happy March, and happy Women's History Month.